I live in the same house we grew up in, the one with the cracked porch steps and the lopsided mailbox that Dad swore he'd fix every summer, but never did. My siblings, they scattered years ago. Big cities, bigger lives. But me, I stayed, not because I had to, because I hoped maybe someday they'd look back and see this place as home again. Or maybe, see me. I'm the youngest, always the one at the end of the table, passed over like the gravy bowl no one asked for. Still, every year I showed up. Birthdays, holidays, whatever reason they gave me to believe I was still part of something, and every year I left with that same dull ache of being invisible. But this year was different. It was my sister's birthday. Not just any birthday, her 40th, a milestone. I told myself this was my shot, not to impress, but to connect. I wanted to be seen, not pitied, loved, not tolerated. So I decided to cook. The whole meal. Everything from scratch. Her favorites. The dishes Mom used to make before everything changed. I woke up early the day before the party, long before the sun peeked through the curtains. My grocery list was already in my coat pocket, neatly folded next to a picture of the four of us as kids, back when smiles weren't so rare. I drove across town to the farmer's market, picking out ingredients with care, as if each one held a memory. The chicken? Lemon herb, like the one she used to sneak bites of as a kid before dinner was served. The potatoes? Mashed with a hint of garlic, just like Mom did. I even made that weird green bean casserole she pretended not to like, but always went back for seconds. Each dish wasn't just food, it was a thread, a tether to a time I desperately wanted back. I didn't cook to impress. I cooked to say, I'm still here. I remember. As the stew simmered and the oven ticked, I checked my phone. A message sent to the family group chat. Looking forward to tomorrow. Let me know what time you're coming. Nothing. Just silence. Not even a thumbs up. The day of the party came. I vacuumed, dusted, put on one of Dad's old jazz records that used to play during family dinners. The table was set, plates arranged, napkins folded into little leaves like Mom used to. I stood in the kitchen, apron on, watching the timer count down on the roast, heart racing with hope and fear. They started arriving late. No text, no heads up, just doors opening, laughter spilling in. Not meant for me. My sister breezed past me with a smile for someone else. My brother gave me a side hug mid-conversation with his friend. My niece walked in, earbuds in, barely glancing up. I offered them food. I made your favorites, I said, voice a little too hopeful. They nodded, murmured thanks without tasting a thing. My sister was talking about her latest business trip. My cousin showed off vacation pictures on his phone. Nobody asked how long I'd been cooking. Or why I looked like I hadn't slept. I slipped into the kitchen to catch my breath, and that's when I heard it. From behind the half-closed door. What is this even? This stuff looks ancient, my niece laughed, her voice dripping with teenage sarcasm. Then my sister, not skipping a beat. We'll just feed it to the dogs. Silence. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there with my hand still on the counter. A single plate in front of me, untouched. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and twisted something loose. Not rage. Not yet. Just this heavy, hollow knowing that no matter how hard I tried, I was background noise in their story. I walked back into the room, quiet, composed. No one noticed. They were laughing at something my cousin said about a coworker. I stood there for a full minute, then turned and stepped out onto the back porch. The air was sharp with the coming cold. I wrapped my arms around myself, more out of instinct than chill. And I heard it again, clear as if Dad was sitting next to me on that porch swing. Silence isn't peace. It's just unheard pain. I used to think if I just kept showing up, eventually they'd see me. Now I wasn't so sure. I reached into my apron pocket and pulled out a napkin, folded it the same way I did as a little girl trying to copy Mom's table settings. This one had a tiny leaf on it. I walked back in, placed it at my seat, and sat quietly as they passed the bread basket. No one touched the napkin, just like they never really touched me. I stepped back into the dining room, the cool air from the porch still clinging to my skin like a warning. Nothing had changed in the time I was gone. Plates smeared with sauce, empty glasses tilted at odd angles, laughter bouncing off the walls. None of it mine. They didn't notice I had left. They didn't notice I'd returned. The chair left for me was tucked off to the side, barely part of the oval-shaped table, angled toward the wall like an afterthought. I pulled it out slowly and sat down, the wood creaking under me. No one looked up. My sister, mid-sentence, chuckled about something trivial, how she forgot her TSA pre-check number before a flight. I watched them from that corner seat, the same one I always ended up in. Present, but peripheral. "Let's do a quick family check-in," my sister chirped, as if she were hosting a team meeting. "Figure out who's doing what for Thanksgiving." She clapped her hands once, sharp and bright. Everyone shuffled into seats again, some still holding half-eaten bites of food. My brother pulled out his phone, already checked out. My cousin grabbed the last biscuit and tossed it onto her plate. My niece rolled her eyes but sat down anyway. I stayed silent, shrinking into that crooked chair with a view of the back of their heads. Then came the trap. "Aileen's already doing Thanksgiving, right?" my brother said with a grin, not looking at me. No one turned toward me, not a single face. My sister hummed. "Yeah, she always does it. She's got the house and the kitchen space. Makes sense." Makes sense. I smiled. The kind that stretches your cheeks but doesn't reach your eyes. I didn't speak. I didn't nod. I didn't agree. But silence, as always, was their green light. In that moment, I saw it play out exactly like the years before. The turkey I'd roast, the pies I'd bake, the floors I'd scrub. And then they'd show up, late and loud, crowding the house with their shoes on and their problems unpacked. I'd clean up after them while they posed for family photos I never seemed to be in. Every year. They moved on to other topics, the burden reassigned without ceremony. Then, the conversation shifted gears. "So, about Mom's meds and that bill from the cardiologist," my brother said, leaning forward like this was the moment things got serious. "Didn't you say insurance would cover that?" my cousin asked, already defensive. "She hit the cap," he muttered. "We'll need to split the remainder. It's not that much, but—" "It wasn't my turn," my sister cut in. "Last year, I covered the emergency dental stuff," my niece added, arms crossed. The voices overlapped. Denials, half-truths, blame dressed up as logic. It wasn't a discussion. It was a brawl in formal wear. I sat through it, watching like an outsider in my own home. No one asked if I'd already paid parts of it. No one asked if I even had the means to cover more. But then came the kicker. "Aileen's always been the responsible one," my brother said, shrugging. "She'll figure it out." That hit deeper than any insult. It wasn't praise. It was an expectation, another brick in the wall they'd built around their comfort. I looked across the table. My mouth opened slightly, ready to speak, to say something, anything, but my mother's face caught my eye. Her expression was tired, not just physically. It was the weariness of someone who'd watched too many of these moments unfold. I swallowed my words. Instead, I reached for my napkin and folded it into the same leaf shape as before. No one noticed. They were still squabbling, now over whose job had the worst benefits. I placed the napkin gently beside my untouched plate. Not a protest, not exactly, but a line drawn in linen. Then, I saw her. My niece. Her eyes met mine, briefly, a flicker of recognition, maybe guilt. Maybe just confusion. She looked away. The meeting ended not with closure, but with distraction. Someone turned on the TV. Someone else grabbed dessert. My sister scrolled through her phone, checking likes on her birthday photo. They moved on like the conversation had never happened. I stood slowly, hands brushing crumbs off my skirt. From the doorway, I watched them joke and stretch and lean into one another like nothing had shifted. But it had. This was the last time I'd be the responsible one, the one who smoothed things over. The glue, the doormat, the maid, the scapegoat, they just didn't know it yet. I walked into the kitchen, where the leftovers sat untouched. Among them, a small white cupcake with purple icing. It was the one I'd set aside for my sister, lavender, her favorite color. I picked it up gently, turned it in my hand. Then I placed it back into the box, carefully closing the lid. I didn't throw it away. I was saving it, for something they'd never expect. The house was dead quiet by the time I stepped back into the kitchen. Midnight was close. The fridge hummed. A lone fork clinked in the sink when I dropped it in. Every light overhead felt too bright. Plates stacked high on the counter. Crumbs scattered across the table like confetti no one cleaned. Half-eaten dishes, some already crusting over. The party had ended, but the mess stayed behind. Like always. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. I just started cleaning. My body moved without thinking, like it had done every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday no one thanked me for. They toasted to family. My name didn't come up once. Not one person saved me a slice of cake. They laughed, ate, drank, disappeared. And I was left, again, scraping dried cheese off a platter like I wasn't also someone's sister, someone's daughter. In their eyes, I wasn't a guest. I was the unpaid caterer with a blood tie. As I ran hot water over the pans, a memory hit me like a brick. 3 Christmases ago, I spent 2 weeks making everyone custom gifts. I stitched initials into scarves, hand-packed spice jars with old family recipes, printed photo collages from years they didn't even remember. Not one person opened theirs in front of me. I found 2 of the scarves unopened in the guest bedroom drawer that March. Another one, my niece's, showed up 6 months later in a donation box I'd agreed to drop off. They said my gifts were too much, too personal, too sentimental. But I noticed my cousin used my recipe for her Pinterest page last year. Got over 2,000 likes. Never mentioned where it came from. That same Christmas, I was asked to take the group photo. I stood behind the camera, angling it just right. I clicked the shutter, and they smiled. Without me, I found myself back in the laundry room that night, lights off, surrounded by the smell of detergent and wet cotton. I cried then, not loud, but sharp, quick, like the kind of pain that doesn't need sound to exist. And here I was again, different room, same silence. I finished wiping down the counter, dried my hands, and started toward the hallway. Just as I passed the garage, I heard voices. It stopped me. My sister's laugh, muffled but clear enough. She really came with all that food and thought we'd be grateful. It's sad, really. My cousin snorted. Told you. She's still desperate for approval, even at her age. Their giggles cut through me. They didn't know I was standing outside. I don't even think they would have cared if they did. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My body went still, like some animal waiting out a storm. But inside, everything boiled. I backed away slowly, step by step, until I was out of earshot. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were still shaking, but my head was clear. They never wanted me here. Not just tonight, maybe not ever. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through old messages, my sister not replying to the Thanksgiving invitation last year, my cousin forgetting to send me the address for the family barbecue, texts left unread. I thought loyalty meant something. I thought showing up would earn me a place, but I was never part of the circle. I was orbiting it, feeding it, cleaning up after it. I whispered into the dark. Maybe they see me as weak. And maybe I was, for thinking love without return was anything but slow erosion. But the shaking stopped. My mind settled into something different, not calm, not rage, clarity. I stood up, pulled a small bag from the closet, packed it, just a change of clothes, toothbrush, phone charger, not because I was leaving, but because I was done staying on their terms. I reached under my bed and pulled out an old notebook I hadn't opened in years. It still smelled faintly of lavender and ink. I used to write in it when I didn't know how to speak up. Tonight I wrote again. Not poetry, not reflection, plans, not for revenge, for boundaries. They won't remember what they said in the garage, but I'll never forget it. And I won't pretend it didn't happen. I zipped the bag shut and set it by the door. I wasn't going anywhere, but I wasn't staying where they put me either. I sat alone on the edge of my bed, lights off, the soft glow of my phone screen the only thing keeping me from drowning in silence. I wasn't scrolling for distraction. I was searching, hunting for proof that I wasn't imagining it. Group chats buzzed. Photos from the party had made their way online. The decorations looked lovely, the lighting flattering, laughter in the background, wine glasses clinking, no tags, no credits, just comments. That food looked amazing. Who catered it? Wonder who made that cake. Gorgeous. My name didn't appear once. Then came a short video. Someone had filmed it, maybe for fun. My sister stood in the middle of the kitchen, cocktail in hand, laughing. If no one takes it home, we'll just feed it to the dogs, she said. They all laughed. My heart didn't break. It recoiled, like it wanted to climb up into my throat and never come back down. Not because they said it, because they didn't care who heard. Because it wasn't a slip of the tongue, because it wasn't even personal to them. I was so far beneath their awareness, they could mock me and forget seconds later. Was I invisible? Or did they all just agree to pretend I was? I set the phone down slowly. My hands were steady now. Something inside me had started to align. They could ignore me in a room. They could dismiss me in a video. But they couldn't erase what I had done. Not this time. The next morning, before the sun fully rose, I opened my laptop and typed. I laid it out like a report. Every dish I made, the ingredients I paid for, the hours logged cooking, prepping, plating. I added timestamps, photos of me at the stove, handwritten shopping lists. I wasn't emotional. I was exact. Then I sent it. Email. Subject line, party prep details, full breakdown. I CC'd Belle, Mom, cousins, a few of the guests I knew had asked for the recipe. I sat back and waited. The first response came in from Belle. Well, that's helpful, she wrote. Next time, maybe run the invites and photo credits by me. We just want to make sure things stay classy. Classy. Then Mom. Sweetheart, I know you tried hard, but people don't notice the ones who hide in the kitchen. You've always been more comfortable there. That one stung more than the video, because it was wrapped in a compliment. Soft, gentle, and sharp as a nail under the fingernail. They praised me just enough to avoid blame, just enough to shut me up. But I wasn't shutting up. I stared at the screen and realized something that had taken me years to admit. Kindness without acknowledgement is manipulation. Later that afternoon, Delphine texted. I saw Belle's post, she said. Honey, that food was yours. I know your hands when I see them. You deserve better than this. Want me to tag you? Or I can share your document? I hesitated. That hesitation, that pause, was familiar. I'd lived my whole life in that space. The what if they get mad space, the don't make waves space. But what had it gotten me? A life of being politely dismissed? A flash from years ago came back. Me as a teenager, apologizing for crying too loudly when my brother broke my project. My dad had said, "You don't want to be the girl who always makes a fuss." That voice had followed me, shaped me. Delphine waited, and I said, "Do it." She posted the document, tagged me. I didn't refresh the page. I didn't need to. Because within minutes, Belle fired back. A curated highlight reel of the party. High resolution, filtered, bright smiles. She captioned it. A beautiful evening with loved ones. Thank you to everyone who made it special. No mention of me. Again. But the comments? Who made that lemon tart? Who did the charcuterie board? Someone finally tagged me. @Eileen Morales. Then another. And another. A few of my friends chimed in, defending me. Their comments got buried, ignored. But I saw them. And Belle? She stayed silent. I opened my own profile, composed a post. I didn't vent. I didn't accuse. I wrote, yes, I made the food. I prepared it with care, time, and my own money. I asked for acknowledgement, not applause. I read it 5 times. Then I hit post. The phone rang 20 minutes later. Mom. I saw your post, sweetheart. You know how people are. They don't always mean what they say. Her tone was syrupy, but I could feel the chill underneath. Then Belle's voice raised from the hallway, not even through the phone. Why post it publicly? Couldn't you have just talked to us? Family doesn't air laundry. I stood up, held the phone to my ear like a weapon, steady and ready. I said, privately, you erased me. Publicly, I exist. I deserve both truth and credit. Belle didn't answer. I think she realized something, that her usual charm wouldn't work this time. I stepped outside. Let the wind hit my face. I had posted the truth. Now I would live its consequences. Morning came soft and gray. I sat on the front porch with a mug of coffee, watching neighbor's dog bark in the yard across the street, leaves falling, quiet, dawn light slipping over the fence. I held my mug, not to warm up, more to steady trembling memory. Because last night's post, last night's truth, it changed something. I remembered exactly how the kitchen smelled. The smell of garlic and roasting chicken, sweet glaze on dessert, heat from the oven. That smell used to mean love in this house. Now it only means I did what no one saw. I didn't shake last night when I posted that message. I didn't cry. I didn't wait for pity or recognition. I just spoke, and that was enough to spark something. I stepped inside. I watched the empty chairs at the table, my sister's chair, my mother's, mine. My voice settled inside me. Today, I would make them hear something different. Not loudness, not shouting, boundary. I gathered them, my sister, my mother, my brother, in the living room. I said, "I love you all." My voice was calm. They blinked. Didn't expect this. I continued. But I refuse for love to be the excuse for my silence anymore. If I'm going to be present at your table, I want acknowledgement, not pity. I laid out what I needed. Credit when I cook. No more dismissals. When I make something, name the cook. When someone wants a recipe, don't act surprised I made it. And I asked for direct communication, not whispered complaints behind my back. I felt my heart beat fast as I spoke, muttered protests from my sister. My mother tried to say something. I raised a hand. "You had decades to speak," I said. "Let me finish." Silence stretched. That silence spoke louder than any argument. Later, I left the house. I drove to a little coffee shop, one of those places where baristas know your order by heart. Lucas was there. He was quiet when I walked in, standing in line behind me. He smelled like coffee and regret. He said, "I saw your post." His voice soft. About time someone called it out. Shock tilted my chest. Lucas, who used to nod at everything Belle said, he saw me now. He confessed he'd heard jokes, seen whispers, never said anything. But now he couldn't ignore it. "You're not crazy," he told me. "You're brave." I nodded, suddenly feeling seen in a way I hadn't expected. Validation is heavy. Strange to carry. I thanked him. His words didn't fix everything, but they mattered. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store because I needed milk and because the aisles smelled of quiet. I was buying something harmless when a woman in front of the magazine rack turned and looked at me. "You're the one who wrote that post, right?" I read it. Her voice gentle. I nodded. She told me about her daughter, how she used to cook, clean, be strong, and how people had walked over her too. She said, "Your words might help someone else not stay silent." My throat closed. Gratitude and shame tangled together. I said thank you. I realized then, I wasn't defending just myself anymore. I was speaking for all those quiet kitchens, all those invisible efforts. That night, I walked through the house. The air felt different. I caught my sister's eyes when I passed by the kitchen. She didn't say anything. My mom set down a coffee cup without making that usual comment about messy plates. My heart didn't race. I simply noticed. It wasn't resolution, not yet, but I sensed a shift. The weight of erasure loosened a little. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you refuse to let go of. As I closed my bedroom door, I stood in the hall light, shadow long on the carpet. Sometimes silence is survival, but this silence, this one is mine. I woke up with a strange energy in my chest. Not fear, something tighter, something like determination. The sun wasn't up yet. I traced yesterday's words in my mind. If respect isn't possible, I'll remove myself. I breathed in, I breathed out. I packed a bag in silence, just in case speaking up meant losing more than I'd already lost. Then, a message from Belle popped up. "People are saying your photos of the dish are photoshopped." I stared. Every photo in my camera roll showed raw plate, unaltered lighting, nothing fancy. I checked metadata, timestamps, nothing forged, just me and what I made. I typed back calmly, "All photos are mine, no filters beyond basic adjust. If you want receipts, I have them." But in the group thread, I saw side eyes, literally, replies of, Is that even possible? She seeks credit too much. As if my truth was audacious, rumors spread like wildfire. My cousin forwarded texts. If she copyrighted something, she should prove it. My stomach churned. I realized this wasn't just about hurt anymore. It was about my reputation. I called Edmund. I needed counsel, someone who wouldn't dismiss me. He listened. I felt relief just hearing him ask for the documents, receipts, ingredient lists, prep photos, timestamps, all of it compiled. I saved every screenshot. I backed everything up. Because rumor doesn't need truth. It only needs doubt. That afternoon, I went to a gathering. Belle had invited some mutual friends for brunch, a facade of warmth. I walked in and saw the spread. Charcuterie boards, lemon tarts, pies laid out like a showcase. But no tag, no mention. Someone asked in passing, "So who made that charcuterie board?" Silence. A woman smiled at Belle, then turned to me. I felt the weight of her gaze, half pity, half curiosity. Belle's friend leaned close and whispered, "It's all about presentation, you know? People love the idea more than the maker." I didn't respond. I left quietly, but my heart felt like it might erupt from my chest. Back home, I sat on the couch, body hunched. Doubt gnawed at me. Was I too dramatic? Too sensitive? Did I misjudge everything? Frozen between wanting to crawl back into silence and to stand firm. Memories flared. The birthdays where I cooked, the times they asked for my help but never asked for my name. The dinners where the plating got praise, not the hands of the person who made them. I'd smooth over plates, wipe counters, wash dishes, while their photos posted, their stories told, without me. I remembered a quote I once read from Audre Lorde. "I am not wrong, I am different." It surfed through my mind with sharp edges. Different didn't mean wrong, not anymore. I opened my laptop. I drafted a post, a statement, not angry, not accusatory, just facts. What I did, when I did it, what I spent, and that I deserved recognition. I posted and simultaneously emailed family, receipts, timestamps, ingredient bills, original photos from the prep. I didn't hide, because silence had cost me too much. After posting, I waited. The phone buzzed. Messages trickled in. Some supportive, some defensive, some critical. Belle tried to spin it. "I never said the photos were fake," she typed somewhere, but the damage was done. My name was out. Truth had a shape now. They couldn't ignore it like smoke. They struck back, through whispers, through laughter I could hear when I walked by the kitchen, through the coolness of my mother's greeting in the morning. But I held ground. I didn't engage their mockery. I didn't ask for apologies. I asked for recognition. Something so simple. Something they never thought I would claim. And in claiming it, I changed something in myself. Rumors spread faster than I ever imagined. It started with a quiet post in a community group, someone anonymous saying I stole a recipe idea. My phone buzzed with screenshots forwarded by friends. The message was vague, but cruel. "Looks like someone took credit for what wasn't theirs." My chest tightened. I read it again. My recipe, the photos, everything I told people was being twisted. At least I thought. I'll need proof. I called Dottie. She didn't sugarcoat it. She'd seen an edited photo online, that one with the charcuterie board. It had been cropped to cut out my signature plate setting. That small detail dragged me down. This wasn't just hurt anymore. It was character assassination. I didn't respond in public. Not yet. I gathered screenshots. I reviewed metadata. I felt rage and fear tangled, but I was focused now. Not silence. Something else. Edmund called me in his office a few hours later. The afternoon sun sifted through half-closed blinds. He laid out papers, legal documents to separate my contributions from the family business Belle had always claimed control over. "Belle needs to retract or risk defamation," he said, quiet but firm. I nodded, feeling my throat go dry. I handed him receipts, prep pictures, every timestamp I'd saved. There was a recording of a conversation, the shared posts. I felt like I was building a wall around what was mine. Friends online defended me. Some avoided the topic entirely, others whispered. I remembered being told not to make waves, but this was bigger than hurt. My reputation, my dignity. If I misstepped, maybe I'd look weak, but if I didn't, the rumor might drown any truth. That evening, I joined a dinner at Belle's circle of friends. It felt like walking into a minefield. Tables were set up, wine glasses touched, laughter bubbled. I saw the charcuterie board they used in Belle's post, bejeweled with labels, flattened with filters. No credit. Someone asked, loud enough, "So who actually made that board?" Heads turned, eyes uncertain. Some smiled at Belle, others looked at me with pity or curiosity. Belle's friend leaned over and whispered, "It's the idea, not the hands." That hit me hardest. Hands. My hands. I worked late, woke early, and washed dishes until my fingertips peeled. But the idea, apparently, belonged to silhouettes they preferred to see, not the person behind them. I didn't shout. I walked away. Heart racing, knees weak, but I walked. Later that night, I sat in my living room. The house was quiet. I gathered the evidence again, laid photos side by side, receipts spread across the table. I felt betrayal, not just from Belle, but from everyone who laughed or stayed silent, from Mom, whose lack of defense felt like betrayal. I paused, thought, is this me being dramatic? I shook my head. I heard a voice in my head, a mentor saying, "A lie echoed often enough becomes truth." That voice carried weight now. If I didn't act, they'd rewrite me out. I drafted a public post, not in anger, in measured clarity. What I'd done, when, how, and what I was asking for. I sent copies to family and posted to socials. Photos, prep texts, invoices all attached. No flourish, just, "Yes, I made that food. I worked hard. I want credit." My heart pounded. I waited. Responses came mixed. Some messages of support, some echoes of doubt. "Are you sure? It doesn't look edited? Perhaps you overreacted." And then I heard about Belle posting a vague message. "Words hurt. I hope we can heal." Typical. A passive apology that lifted no burden. But things changed. I saw a client cancel a booking with Belle's company after a friend forwarded evidence. I saw whispers in local gossip. I saw people ask for my name when praising the food. Still, no full apology. Edmund called that night. He confirmed what I'd been waiting for: legal separation. Belle would no longer be able to use my name or likeness in her brand or promotions. Something that looked small on paper felt like lifting a clamp off my throat. I didn't celebrate. I felt wary, scarred, because losing that control meant something real. I sat by the window, moonlight soft. I whispered to myself, I asked only to be seen. Now I demand that my truth be given its weight. It wasn't victory yet, but the ground beneath me wasn't the same. I got the message late afternoon. A small community organization, Voices of Home, wanted me to speak about family silence and truth. My chest pinched. Pride mixed with nerves might bring backlash, but silence had cost me more. I sat down at my desk, opened my notebook where I had scribbled words weeks ago. Effort, truth, recognition, respect. Underneath, I drew a leaf, remembering the napkin folded long ago. Delphine came by in the early evening. She said, "This isn't about revenge, it's about rewriting where you've been written out." Her voice steady. I practiced in my mirror, speaking loud enough for me to hear. Not angry, just real. That night, the hall was lit with warm bulbs. Neighbors, friends, and people from Delphine's circle filled the chairs. I stood on the stage, holding that old embroidered napkin in my hand. My voice shook, not from fear, but from all those times I swallowed anger. "I'm Eileen Morales," I said, "youngest sister, cook, someone invisible most of your lives." I told them how I made food everyone praised, how people took pictures, but never names. I showed documentation, photos of the prep, receipts, messages unanswered, before and after pictures, dishes displayed without my name, then screenshots where I was tagged after others asked. Eyes glistened. Some people gasped, some nodded, some covered their mouths. Belle sat in the front row, her posture stiff, her smile polite but tight. She didn't clap when I finished. But the room shifted, the air changed. People started asking her, Why wasn't Aileen credited? If it was your food, why didn't your brand mention her name? Someone pointed out that Belle's promotion flyers had used my recipe layout without giving me credit. A local vendor refused to partner with Belle after seeing the documents I shared. Whispers spread. Phone cameras flicked. Belle cleared her throat and said, "I thought people knew." She tried charm, but something inside me wouldn't let her slide. Driving home, the streetlights felt like spotlights. My mother barely spoke. Belle avoided my gaze. They were quiet, but respect hung in the silence. Recognition doesn't erase the past, but it changes the present. I held the napkin tight, my proof. I didn't need them to love me fully. I needed them to see me. I realized the leaf stitched into it was more than symbol, something real. Late, after I locked the door, I opened my laptop. An email popped up. Someone wanted to publish my story in a collection on family silence. My heart stuttered. Then, a screenshot landed in my inbox, someone mocking my speech. They shared a short video clip with comments mocking my voice. I closed the laptop. I sat in darkness. Let the silence come. But this night, the truth had been unleashed. I woke up to a silence that didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. The house held its breath. No more slammed doors, no passive sighs. Belle wasn't at breakfast. The chair she usually pulled out too hard sat untouched. My mother handed me a cup of coffee, and to my surprise, another, set down across from mine. She didn't say a word, but she stayed. I nodded, took a sip, then walked outside with my journal tucked under my arm. The porch creaked under my step, same as it did when Dad used to sit here, humming songs from the radio. I sat where he used to sit, right next to the dent in the railing he once tried to patch with duct tape. I opened the notebook and ran my fingers across the page. Not writing yet, just letting myself be still. So much had happened. The dinner where I was erased, the confrontation, the speech, the validation. I didn't feel victorious. I felt grounded. Healing doesn't always mean hugging it out. Sometimes, it just means you're breathing easier than you were yesterday. That's enough. I remembered Delphine telling me about the community garden and decided, today, I'd see it for myself. Later that morning, back in the kitchen, my mother started chopping vegetables without a word. Her hands, slow, methodical. The scent of carrots and onions filled the space between us. We didn't talk about the speech, or Belle, or the people whispering at the church potluck. We talked around it. She said, "I never knew how to mother girls who didn't shrink." I looked up, met her eyes. "You still can. I'm still here." No big moment, just soup, and a quiet that spoke louder than apology. A line came to mind, one I'd underlined in a worn copy of Maya Angelou's book. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. That afternoon, Belle still hadn't returned. Her bedroom door was open, bed untouched. I saw a note on the fridge. Scribbled quick. "Gone to stay with friends. Don't wait up." That was it. No apology, no explanation, but also no malice. Just distance. I held the note for a minute, then folded it in half and put it in the drawer next to the oven mitts. I didn't feel hurt. Not anymore. Letting go isn't the same as giving up. It's just giving yourself back. I headed to the garden around 3. Delphine was already there, bent over a row of basil plants. She waved me over and handed me a watering can. We moved in rhythm, side by side, pulling weeds, trimming stems. I told her about an idea I'd been nursing, a pop-up dinner series themed around invisible meals. Meals that were made, served, loved, but whose creators never got named. She paused, smiled big. "You're doing it. You're giving voice to what they tried to mute." We toasted over cups of lemonade. No crowd, no cameras, just 2 women reclaiming space in quiet ways. I'd taken the old napkin and stitched it into a tablecloth. It covered the serving table at the garden shed, a soft reminder of where I came from. It didn't look fragile anymore. It looked earned. That evening, under fading light, I stood in front of a small group. My first pop-up dinner. Tables lined with home-cooked dishes, each one paired with a story. Some mine, some from others who had been made to feel small. I introduced the meal, not with bitterness, but with clarity. A woman near the front leaned in and said, "You don't sound like someone who got pushed aside." I smiled. That's because I stepped forward. As candles flickered and laughter filled the air, I knew something had closed. Or maybe opened. Either way, I finally felt seen. My story wasn't lost. It was just waiting for me to write it.